Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again on behalf of my colleagues for coming to our program today. By you being here, it's clear that you care about the work that we're all doing, and that's great. So our keynote presentation is, our keynote speaker this afternoon is Seb Formoso. He's our University Chancellor for Information Technology and Chief Information Officer. And as CIO, Seb drives the effort to advance the university's IT priorities and strategy to modernize CUNY's enterprise systems, supporting academic and business operations too. He partners with college CIOs to implement solutions, improving the student, faculty, and staff experience, and provides leadership to help streamline CUNY-wide finance, human resources, and enrollment management processes. He's also responsible for CUNY's cybersecurity program to protect institutional and stakeholder data to ensure continuity of our operations. Seb serves as a member of the Chancellor's Cabinet. He also chairs the IT Steering Committee, comprising of college CIOs and functional stakeholders that develop the CUNY-wide technology strategy. He comes to CUNY with more than 20 years of experience leading IT organizations in multiple industries. His background encompasses strategic leadership, execution of complex programs, and managing transformative changes across enterprises. As the Chief Information Officer of the New York City Department of Finance since 2015, he oversaw the modernization of systems that annually administer approximately $45 billion in city business and property tax revenues. In implementing large-scale and secure cloud-based solutions, he's focused on improving citizen access to the department's systems and information. Prior to joining the city, Seb was with IBM Global Services, where he managed complex IT services contracts for firms such as Konica, PepsiCo, Philip Morris, Terminix, TruGreen, and PHH. Please extend a warm welcome to our CUNY CIO, Seb Formoso. Thank you. Some intro, huh?
Yes. Yes, that was. So, good afternoon. Let me try to stay here close to the. Yeah, that was some intro. I'm pretty impressed with myself there for a minute. So, I'm here to tell you.
No, I'm only kidding.
So, I'm here to tell you about IT resiliency, and why is IT resiliency important? So, we just heard that there is a change in the environment, right? As we move from on-classroom to a new channel, being online and teaching people online, and we don't know how that channel is going to evolve. It's a new channel. One of the things we heard from the panel today is that it's a relatively new environment, and there are many, many issues in that environment, but there's also many, many benefits in that environment. And like anything that is disruptive, it will be changing dramatically over the next few years. So my objective is to be able to create a resilient environment that will allow the faculty, the staff, and the students to thrive when they choose to use an online capability to deliver education to our students. But just a little bit about what we focus on, right? So at my level, I'm the CIO for the university, and I'm always reminded my CIO customers at the campuses that they're teaching people. I'm in the back office. I don't teach anybody, and they're very crisp to tell me that, just to put me in my place on a regular basis. But that's true. My objective and my responsibility is to enable the CIOs who are at the front and center in front of the faculty, for them to be able to deliver the services that the faculty needs at every single one of our campuses. And so we focus on a few things that I have listed here in order to be able to do that. But we think about, whenever we make a decision, we think about customer experience, student experience, faculty experience. We think about broad processes that could be effective across the entire institution, not just in one place. And the last bullet is something that we spend probably 30% of our time thinking about, which is cybersecurity. We need to be able to do this in an environment that is secure and that protects the data of the institution. So I'm just going to roll through a few things that we've been working on. Wi-Fi. So I've been here for about 10 months, and when I got here, there was a project going on where we were trying to make Wi-Fi ubiquitous. Right today, every campus has got a relatively good Wi-Fi. But if I am a graduate student or if I am a faculty member that teaches in multiple campuses, I have to, as I change campuses, I have to re-engage my Wi-Fi access. So we rolled out something called Eduroam, which basically is a Wi-Fi capability that once you establish a relationship and an identity with the system, no matter what campus you go to, you'll be able to get on Wi-Fi. And the good thing about Eduroam is not only that it's CUNY-wide, but if you go to any library in any school in New York City, whatever institution you go to, if you go to most of the libraries in any university in Europe, your Eduroam Wi-Fi access will work. So for those of us like me that are pretty much stuck in one facility, not a great thing. But for many of you who are going in between buildings, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback that this has been a really good productivity factor for people who don't have to worry about remembering their various Wi-Fi capabilities. And what we learned from it is that our own IT staffs are beginning to use this much more because they seem to travel between sites. This project is something that I am very specifically very proud of. So one of the things that I did when I got here is engage with every CIO to ask them their problems. That in retrospect was probably a mistake because those meetings went on for a very, very long time. But the one consistent thing that I heard, my network infrastructure is old, it is unreliable, and I can't patch it. That last statement is very important because if you cannot patch something with the latest patches, it means that it is insecure. So that resonated very crisply with me very quickly. And everyone was off engaging with their individual campus staffs to get money to refresh their network. Now, CUNY is primarily a Cisco network. There are tremendous amounts of Cisco equipment in this institution. And I couldn't understand why we were why we were talking to Cisco 16 different ways. So we put a stop to that. We engaged Cisco directly. I asked Cisco to come to the table and give us the best possible price. We're very close. I just went to the Board of Trustees about a month ago. They have authorized us to move forward with the project. And this was not a forced march. I asked all the campuses if they wanted to participate, and 16 of the 26 said yes. So we're going to go and do those 16. And the ones that said no are okay. And if they want to do it in phase 2, we'll do it next year. But we're getting ready to execute a procurement so that we can basically procure close to 2,000 devices across the 16 campuses so that we can get not only the campus networks to be more resilient, which is critical to the students, but also more secure, which is critical to the institution. So we spent a lot of time on this, and you'll be hearing more about this. The objective, though, for those of you who use the network, the changes will be made at night and on the weekends. I get that we do not want to have network outages. In my history, working in many, many different institutions, right, we need to do changes like this while not impacting the people who are using the network. The other thing that we discovered was that our network was not as resilient between the campuses as it should be. So let me give you a little bit of so today, every campus is connected to CUNY Central through fiber cables. Those fiber cables run under the city. They are running through manholes. And whenever you lose one of these because of a manhole fire or because of a fiber cuts are dramatically more common than you can imagine. And whenever that happens, I'm on the telephone with lots of partners we have to go and get that, identify where the fiber broke, send someone there, get underground, get the Department of Transportation to let us open up that manhole cover and fix that problem with some highly specialized people who are able to fix fiber. So what we needed to do was, sorry about that, what we needed to do was be able to basically create resiliency. And we've been at this for the better part of 6 months, and we expect to be done in another 6 months, where every campus is going to have 2 different paths to CUNY Central. And those paths are going to be on 2 very different manholes, right? I do not want to be on the same street, because if there's a fiber cut, I don't want to put 2 fibers in the same manhole, because if there's a fiber cut, there's no resiliency. That's an obvious thing. So this has been well planned. We had a little bit of we had to stop during the holidays, because you obviously can't get underneath the New York City streets during the holidays, but we picked this up again, and we are looking to complete this project either in early summer or at the worst case, late fall. And that will avoid multi-hour outages when there's a fiber cut to a campus that only has 1 connection to CUNY Central. Single sign-on. So the other thing that we noticed was that when you log on to a system, you may have to use more than 1 password or more than 1 credential. And that just seems, in this day and age, that it's not appropriate. So we've been actively working on coming up with a solution so that we will have a single sign-on capability, so that any campus can leverage our single sign-on identity management system and provide that to the students, to the faculty, to the staff, so they can access any system. Some campuses were very, rightfully so, were impatient and created their own solution. So as we implement this for CUNY, we're going to have to be very, very careful with those campuses that already solved the problem, because we don't want to negatively impact them. So transition and planning will be very delicate to make sure that we do this correctly, right? But we're thinking that we need to be able to provide a very simple identity management system that verifies people's identity and allows them to go to wherever they need to go, whether it's Blackboard, DegreeWorks, CUNY First. If you're a CUNY First user, it will give you the access to whatever data you need, depending on your profile, whether you work in finance or HR or SIS, right? We're trying to figure that out, and we think that we're in a good place with our design. We recently reviewed it with our friends at Oracle in Austin, Texas, and we also reviewed it with some very senior people at Microsoft. We have a very good relationship with Microsoft. We tested the idea with Minnesota. It turns out that Minnesota has an identity management problem that's very similar to CUNY's. And we tested it with the Department of Education in New York City, who had the exact same problem during COVID. So we're feeling as if we're ready to launch, and we'll be launching later this year. This is a boring subject, but an important one. So today, if you want to call and ask for help, it's not really clear how to, from my perspective. So we're trying to create a system where it will be ubiquitous how you ask for help. And then each campus can take advantage of that system, so that there is one way in to anyone who wants to get help from IT. And once you ask for help, the system will determine whether it's something that CUNY Central has to do, or whether it's something that has to be done at a campus level, and route the ticket, the problem, the issue to resolution to the appropriate place. Right now, we have a number of campuses already doing this, and it's working quite well. The other nice thing about what we're doing with this project and a few others of the projects is, as opposed to having the campuses try to solve a problem such as this, that really is best solved by Central, we're going to go and take the initiative to solve it at Central and pay for it, right? So why are we burdening the campuses to spend in multiple areas to solve the same problem? So some of the things that you're seeing today is the thinking that we need to leverage our critical mass so that we can buy one solution that is applicable to multiple campuses. And that's the basis for trying to create a single system for problem, change. And once we build a system, we think we're going to be able to scale this pretty broadly. For example, we know that the system that we already have in place can create knowledge, can can create knowledge-based portals so that we have a tremendous amount of information about what's occurring all the time at CUNY. We can leverage things like ChatGPT to have a system like this be able to receive questions and leverage all the information we've collected over the last few years to respond to those questions, theoretically making it easier for people to get resolution to their problems and avoiding someone having to wait for a human, either at the campus level or at CUNY Central, to respond. So this is one of the things that I spend a tremendous amount of time on. So for those of you who may not know, you heard the term CUNY First. CUNY First is three things. CUNY First is an HR system, CUNY First is a finance system, and CUNY First is a student information system. It's three very, very different things, even though we branded it one thing. And it's important to understand that, because people talk about CUNY First if it's one thing, and it is definitely not. And in fact, CUNY First does some other things that are very, very separate from the first thing that I mentioned. But right now, our finance system and our HR capabilities are not what they should be for what we need in 2023 and beyond. And we issued an RFP, and we got some good proposals. We're in the process of finalizing our contract with our new partners. And we are going to be launching a project in the next few months, anywhere between 3 and 6 months. I think we'll have the contract in place so that we can begin what will be a fairly complicated project to be able to deploy a new HR system and a new finance system across CUNY. And I don't say that lightly. I know that there are many, many, many local systems to do some of these things. We call them shadow systems back at CUNY Central. We're going to have to deal with the problem of integration across the university. And you heard in my intro that I was at IBM. One of my jobs at IBM was to do that in very, very large Fortune 500 companies. So we get the idea that this is going to be not easy, and we are preparing. The technology will not be the problem. Technology today can do just about anything. The problem will be cultural change, organizational change. Humans do not like, I don't like to change. Most humans don't like change. So we're going to have to deal with what is the benefit of integrating something across all of the campuses for the benefit of all of us, and what's going to be the little thing that we're all going to have to get uncomfortable about when we make this change. But we're spending, a tremendous amount of time thinking about not the technology, because we know the technology can work. Organizationally, adaptation, how are we going to adopt it? And how are we going to minimize the issues that we expect to face when we do something like this? So that's one of our big projects that we're working on. So what are the things, why should we become more resilient besides CUNY Online and the capabilities that you need at the campus? Well, so CUNY Buy is something that is being rolled out as we speak. June 30th, July 1st will be a big milestone for this system. It's a way for every campus to procure things centrally and to begin to leverage the critical mass buying power that this institution has. That if we go to market through one channel, we'll be able to leverage. DegreeWorks, something that's out there today, highly used. We think that it can be better, and we're planning an upgrade that will happen later this year. And we want to make sure that as we make that upgrade, not only are the benefits seen by the students, but that we can remove some of the friction between DegreeWorks and CUNY First SIS and make that experience a little bit better. ZenDirect. So ZenDirect, for those of you who may not know, is a student information system. It is just like CUNY First. It is just as big, but it is for non-matriculated adult education students. And it is being rolled out across the campuses. The non-matriculated business, it's got over 200,000 students in it, and every campus has their own adult education system. And CUNY Central decided that it was time to have one system so that you can get visibility across all of the campuses that are teaching adults and non-matriculated students. ZenDirect is our strategic solution for that customer set. CUNY Online, you heard a lot about CUNY Online today. I am staying quite aligned as much as I can with Kim. We're working very closely with her team to make sure that the technology is not on the critical path, right? As a CIO, your job is always to make sure that you anticipate what your customers need and that you try to stay one step ahead of them so that the technology is not preventing your customers to do what they want to do. CUNY Online is a critical project for this institution. And our job, like I said, is to make sure that we think about what are they going to need, even though they may not know, so that we can stay ahead of them and make sure that we're not in any way or shape a problem. I told you about CUNY First, HR and Finance, CUNY First SIS, Student Information System. Today, if you use CUNY First, if a student uses CUNY First on this device, about 60% of the application is mobile compatible, which means for the other percent, the student's got to pinch, unacceptable. So we are now planning to upgrade CUNY First SIS, so it's 100% mobile compatible on this device, right? Students use this device, a device like it, more than they use workstations. So we want to make sure that we're fully compatible with mobile phones or any other mobile device. Starfish migration to EAB Navigate. So this institution, Bronx Community, uses Starfish very successfully. It's been a very well adopted system. EAB Navigate is a comparable system that the senior colleges use. So far, so good. But the marketplace has changed. EAB Navigate purchased, acquired, bought Starfish. And they're going to be asking us to migrate to one platform sometime next year. It is the nature of the environment that companies buy each other, so we got to deal with it. And what we're working with is preparing for how do we make this transition so that it doesn't impact the people at Bronx Community College that are very happy using Starfish today. How are we going to transition that? And we're spending some time thinking about that. And the LMS transition, clearly the learning management system, Blackboard, is, in my opinion, the most important system we have. It is the system that does what this institution is here to do, right? It enables teaching. And as we migrate from Blackboard to Brightspace, the product that we decided to implement from a company called D2L, we are working very closely with a gentleman called Evan Silverman, who is leading that effort to make sure that we understand how we're going to do that and how can my team and the other IT teams support that effort, whether it's data transition, education, whatever it might be. Lots of planning to be done in this particular project of LMS transition before we launch it. But again, the thought, right, the optimization point that I come to the table with when I go to these meetings is, how do we remove the friction from our students and faculty? How do we make it easier for them to do what they do? And when we have to make changes, how do we do those changes with minimal impact, with a mindset that we don't want to disrupt them, given that they are here to operate and to do the thing that is the primary mission of the university. So those are some of the critical things that we're working on. Not the entire list. I haven't listed all the security projects because it's not a good idea to make public what's wrong with your security systems, but we have plenty of projects in that area, rest assured. We have a really good set of security professionals working on my team. We have a very good relationship with a company called Palo Alto that is assisting us in keeping your data secure. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We are under attack every day, but so far, so good. And I come from a place where we were not always successful in keeping the bad guys out. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about what I said today or anything that might be in your minds that you think would be helpful. Yes?
I'm a faculty, so I don't do any purchase. But one of the things that happened in many branches of Lehman was that things that could have been purchased from standard vendors that were very basic, that needed to be exactly what they were, like key blanks for the locksmiths and gaffer tape for my colleague who's here, and very simple things because of the limitation of vendors, got bounced back with an attempt to renegotiate, or just couldn't be available at all. With CUNY Buy, if we're going to look at the whole system, can the vendors be expanded? Because there are many small things that have become torture for the people who need them to purchase.
Right. So CUNY Buy does not have any limit whatsoever in the number of vendors we have. It's not,
Well, who is setting these policies
now,
that
so
are making
the technology
people
is, like I
crazy?
said, the technology is not the problem. So we're making decisions. So our Chief Procurement Officer, Martin Storla, is trying to get his team to engage the broadest amount of vendors as possible. And I would encourage your procurement folks to engage with him, because he's right now, right? The system is basically in. We can begin buying anything we want with CUNY Buy. The problem is right now we don't have it connected to finance, so it doesn't reflect on the budgets. That's what we need to do at the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th coming up. We got to do it at a very sharp financial edge. But if you want to put more vendors in that system, which I did, by the way, I wanted more IT vendors to be able to help me with wiring and to be able to help me with physical things that we need to do in data centers. I went to Martin, I said, here, I want these vendors. And I want you to, I brokered the meetings to encourage the procurement officer and his staff to embrace the vendors that I needed to do my job. And so every local campus should think about what are my preferred vendors, because I'm certain that there are certain vendors in Queens that are not available in Staten Island. And Martin needs to, be able to engage those vendors so that we can put them on CUNY Buy. And the vendors, by the way, will appreciate it, because the vendors that get on CUNY Buy have a better cycle time of closing transactions. I will speak to Martin and ask him to recommunicate that to something called the Administrative Council, where all of the people that from the campuses that work with us are part of on a monthly basis. I will do that. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you for meeting me halfway.
Okay. I have actually two things. One has to do with you talking about centralizing some of the efforts with human resources, and I was wondering if you thought about trying to centralize the packets, the onboarding packets of faculty when they're coming on board. Let's say they're teaching at LaGuardia and then they want to take a position, let's say BCC or Hostos or whatever, and it seems ridiculous that somebody may have been teaching at 20 years at some place at CUNY and then they got to start the whole process all over again. Although I appreciate that there may be some uniqueness from one campus to another, but it seems ridiculous to start like from scratch. And the question I actually have has to do with, I can appreciate costs is factored into the migration from Blackboard to Brightspace, but I'm wondering what are the other benefits Brightspace brings, that Blackboard might not have, because it's a big effort to do that transitioning from both the student and from the and the faculty end. So I'm, would like to be able to say something to my colleagues. I'm a unit coordinator who doesn't have to deal with some of this. What are the advantages that Brightspace brings other than potentially cost?
Okay. So I heard two things, just to make sure that I heard. So what is the advantages of Brightspace over Blackboard? And I think the first one had to do with when I'm a faculty member and I go from one campus to the other, it's almost as if I have to, I'm almost starting my job again. Why do I have to give you all my SIM information when I'm just simply going to work at another CUNY campus? I recently ran into that problem at the Graduate Center, and I personally could not understand why the graduate students have to retype everything in again to a system that already has their information. That just seemed to me to be the opposite of customer service, right? Which is the theme that I'm trying to drive. I'm trying to work with one of the faculty at the Graduate Center to understand why we have to do this. Because to me, it seems that we should not have to do this. It's ridiculous to me that we're asking people who are busy to key punch the data more than once. So I don't think we should have to wait for the replacement to CUNY first to fix that problem. So I'm looking into the problem because I just found it and I don't know why we do it. I don't know. I can't explain it to you. No one has been able to explain it to me. So I can't explain it to you. But I can tell you that I think it's wrong and we should do something about it. And if the policies don't prevent me, they don't handcuff me, we will. The second question. So I am not the expert on LMSs. The answer to your question should come from someone called Evan Silverman, that you will find him. He knows that intimately. But let me tell you what I do know, and I will tie it to technology. So I've been an Apple person forever. Those of you who have an Android phone know that an Android phone is dramatically more flexible, right? And those of you who love Android don't like Apple, like my daughter. Okay. Blackboard is like Apple. It's terrific, but it's got some, as I understand it, it's got some boundaries. Brightspace is like Android. You can do anything you want. Now, right, so I challenged Evan when I heard this because, when you can do everything you want, be careful what you ask for, right? Because you need boundaries. But I would encourage you to please get together. And there's a gentleman diagonally behind you called Crafton, who is one of the experts, and the lady who's sitting behind him are also. Those they know more about the answer to that question than I do, because they've been intimately involved in Blackboard in the decision to migrate to Brightspace. So I can't answer the question, but I can tell you who can. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for oh, I'm sorry.
I just think that to help my colleague here out from John Jay, there's also a guy at the front of the room named Steve Castellano who could probably answer the questions too. But I think one thing that just has to be clarified is that the LMS change process was very inclusive of faculty and did go through every campus's governance in one form or another. And it wasn't perfect, because nothing at CUNY is perfect, but it was a pretty inclusive process. So my question is, how are you going to keep that inclusivity going on?
So if you're referring to, so what I've noticed is that within Learning Management System, the Blackboard Council, the Blackboard committee is incredibly powerful in terms of keeping LMS on the right track. Our view is we need to keep that going. In fact, we might have to expand it, but we're actually trying to copy what has been happening on the LMS side with Blackboard and create a very similar committee for HR and finance, so that we can get the campuses to tell us how to configure the new system to meet not only the CUNY-wide processes, but the campus-specific process. I have not, to me, as I've looked around in the last 10 months, when I see what's happening with Blackboard and how that committee influences the vendor and us, that's the best practice model. I haven't seen a better model than that. So our objective is to copy that model. Can it be better? Yeah, anything could be better, but that's where, those meetings are highly productive. People get to the point. There's not a lot of, people taking sides. People are, they agree on a point, and then we can leverage our power, our size with the vendor to get them to do what we want, right? I love our vendors. They're our partners, but they like to pick us apart by selling to individual campuses. I'm trying to figure out how to have us act as one, right? And leverage our power as a very institution. And in the area of Blackboard, we do that really well. No?